everyone. Good morning. I'm Marcy Gonzalez.
And I'm Trevor Ault. Here are the top 5 things to know this Tuesday. Number 1, the House Intelligence Committee is releasing its impeachment report to the public today.
It comes as the impeachment investigation shifts to the Judiciary Committee. President Trump is in London for a NATO summit where he criticized Democrats for moving forward with the impeachment process while he's overseas.
He's holding a bilateral meeting with the president of France, who is under fire for questioning NATO's future. At number 2, classes resumed this morning at the high school near Milwaukee, where a student was shot by a police officer Monday.
The 17-year-old sparked chaos at the school when police say he removed a handgun from his waistband and aimed it at officers. He's now in the hospital in stable condition.
The suspect's classmate first alerted police about the weapon. His mother says she is not surprised that he spoke up.
He saw the kid playing with it, I guess, in his backpack or something, and just thought, well, you know, it's dangerous. I'm going to stop this from happening.
So not surprised that he was the one that got out of class and reported this.
Right. He's very much a hero right now, and I'm very proud of him.
Another high school in the same town was also locked down Monday because of a student who reportedly had a gun. A fake weapon was later found.
On to number 3, former President Jimmy Carter is back in the hospital just weeks after undergoing brain surgery.
He's now been admitted for treatment of a urinary tract infection. Carter is 95. He's been hospitalized several times in recent months.
He was released last week after surgery to relieve pressure on his brain. Number 4, a consumer alert from the FBI this morning about the risk of owning a smart TV.
The FBI says hackers can use your TV to change channels, send your kids inappropriate videos, or cyber stalk your home. Agents recommend learning what features are on your TV and how to control them, then come up with your own unique passwords and make sure you know how to disable microphones and cameras.
The FBI recommends placing tape over your TV's camera.
Oh my. Finally, number 5, the word of the year dictionary.com says is existential.
The company chose the word, saying it captures a sense of grappling with the survival of our planet, our loved ones, and our ways of life in a year that saw multiple crises.
We're feeling existential this
We
morning,
sure are.
pondering the deep questions. A very good Tuesday morning to everybody. We are filling in for Janae and Kenneth. We brought in help from time zones away. Marcy Gonzalez. We saw that I was on the call sheet and said we need to bring out the big guns.
Yes,
Let's
that
get
was
Marcy in here.
it. Someone to babysit over here.
Yes, that's great. Double duty for Marcy, and we'll make sure that you get that extra pay bump.
Oh, yeah, I'm
on your way out of
sure.
here.
I'm sure. Trevor,
Right.
though, it is always a pleasure to see
Yes.
you. Good
Yes.
times working with you.
Wonderful.
Yes,
We're
but
off to a great start this
we sure
Tuesday. But we do have a lot of news to get to, and we're going to begin with the big story.
We are going to get to that big story now. President Trump embarking on a 2-day visit to London in honor of the 70th anniversary of NATO.
So the president's continuing to call on members of the alliance to pay their fair share as he prepares to sit down with the leaders of America's closest allies. And despite a busy schedule, he's also keeping a close eye on the impeachment inquiry. ABC's Karen Travers has more from London.
A jam-packed 48 hours in London for President Trump.
We're meeting with a lot of countries.
Highlights on his schedule include meetings with German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President Emmanuel Macron, a lavish reception for all NATO leaders at Buckingham Palace, hosted by Queen Elizabeth. But President Trump signaling he'll still be paying attention to the impeachment proceedings back in Washington. Monday morning, he took issue with the House Judiciary Committee scheduling a hearing while he's overseas.
The do-nothing Democrats decided when I'm going to NATO, this was set up a year ago, that when I'm going to NATO, that was the exact time. This is one of the most important journeys that we make as president.
This gathering of NATO leaders was meant to be a celebration, an event to mark the 70th anniversary of the military alliance and showcase its strength. Like previous NATO gatherings, there is tension among leaders. But this time, it's not just President Trump disrupting the agenda. French President Macron sparked fierce backlash when he questioned the future of NATO, diagnosing it with what he declared to be its, quote, brain death. And Turkey has angered NATO leaders with its recent military operation in northern Syria. For 3 years, President Trump has pushed for NATO countries to step up their contributions to the alliance. He'll keep up that message here in London.
They're going to have to do a little more burden sharing.
Administration officials say President Trump this year will take credit for more NATO countries hitting their commitment on defense spending. Administration officials say on this issue, President Trump has been spectacularly successful. Trevor, Marcy.
Our thanks to Karen Travers in London following the president there. And meanwhile, the impeachment investigation is taking another turn in Washington.
House Democrats are expected to release their impeachment report to the public today, looking to show that the president abused his office. But Republicans are standing firmly behind the president, drawing up a preemptive report claiming Trump did nothing wrong.
Inez de la Cuetara joins us now with developments from Washington. Inez, good morning. What's going on?
Good morning, Trevor and Marcy. After weeks of public hearings, today the House Intelligence Committee plans to vote on releasing its official impeachment report, laying out Democrats' case that the president abused his power when he pressured the leader of Ukraine to investigate his political opponents.
As President Trump kicks off NATO meetings in London, back in Washington, the impeachment inquiry is moving full steam ahead.
Because the whole thing is a hoax. Everybody knows it.
Trump accusing Democrats of trying to embarrass him by pushing forward while he's abroad.
This is one of the most important journeys that we make as president. And for them to be doing this and saying this and putting an impeachment on the table, which is a hoax to start off with.
The House Intelligence Committee plans to release its official impeachment report today, which the Judiciary Committee could decide to use as the basis for drafting articles of impeachment. House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff appearing on MSNBC.
This is a very important point, which is the evidence on Ukraine is overwhelming, but the evidence on obstruction of Congress is also overwhelming.
That document expected to lay out the evidence that, in Democrats' view, Trump abused his power when he withheld vital U.S. military aid from Ukraine to pressure Ukraine to investigate his political opponents. Republicans releasing their own official response, arguing in a report that Trump should not be impeached as there is no evidence his actions were done specifically to benefit the 2020 election. Republicans also described the evidence presented by Democrats as hearsay, presumptions, and speculation. Ukraine's president now criticizing the decision to withhold that aid, telling Time magazine that there was no quid pro quo, but that, quote, "We're at a war. If you're our strategic partner, then you can't go blocking anything for us."
And now the House Judiciary Committee will be taking up the inquiry, holding its first impeachment hearing on Wednesday. The president and his lawyers have decided not to participate. Trevor and Marcy.
All right, Inez, thank you. In other news, a former FBI lawyer repeatedly attacked by President Trump has broken her silence.
Lisa Page became a frequent target following the disclosure of text messages she exchanged with FBI agent Peter Strzok, disparaging Trump during the 2016 campaign. Page and Strzok were involved in an extramarital affair, which President Trump seized on.
Page told the Daily Beast being mocked by the president is sickening, like being punched in the gut. She insists her views about Trump did not affect her work. The Trump campaign has banned Bloomberg News reporters from attending its rallies and events, and the Republican National Committee is doing the same.
Billionaire Michael Bloomberg entered the race for the White House last week. Bloomberg News said it will not pursue any in-depth investigations of Bloomberg or his Democratic rivals, but the policy does not apply to President Trump, and the Trump campaign has called that decision biased.
The first gun rights case before the Supreme Court in nearly a decade turned into a debate over whether there's still a case at all. As activists on both sides of the issue gathered outside, the justices appeared narrowly divided while questioning if the challenge should be dismissed. At issue is a New York City law that banned gun owners from transporting their guns outside city limits. The restriction was rescinded last year, but pro-gun groups want the court to expand Second Amendment protections.
California Congressman Duncan Hunter is expected to change his plea today and admit to the misuse of campaign funds. The Republican had insisted those charges against him and his wife were part of a political witch hunt. The couple are accused of spending more than $250,000 in campaign money for personal expenses, including golf outings and family vacations. Hunter's wife has already accepted a plea deal that called for her to testify against her husband. Hunter says he is prepared to go to jail. He has not said when he will step down.
Chicago's top cop has been fired from the force just a few weeks before his scheduled retirement.
Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot announced she had terminated Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson for what she called a series of ethical lapses. Johnson's firing followed Lightfoot's review of an Inspector General's report about an incident in October in which Johnson was found unconscious in his SUV. Now, Johnson had claimed he hadn't taken his blood pressure medication and had a few drinks with dinner. Lightfoot said Johnson repeatedly lied about what happened that night, but she declined to offer details out of deference to Johnson's family.
2 bushfires are burning out of control near Sydney, Australia. The smoke from the fires choking the city. You can see that there. The smoke's so thick it is obscuring views of landmarks like the Sydney Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. One of the fires is now threatening homes on Sydney's west side. Australia's wildfires this year have destroyed more than 500 homes and 2.5 million acres, also really impacting the koala populations.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, a really beautiful area, too. Cyber Monday was a record-setting blockbuster for U.S. retailers. Analysts are estimating shoppers spent a record $9.2 billion online. That is about a 17% increase over last year, which was already the most online sales in a single day ever. Sales made using a smartphone accounted for more than $3 billion. That's also a new record. And have no fear, because more big discounts are on the way.
If you miss Cyber Monday, do not panic. There are going to be more deals coming through. The next big day that everyone's going to be shopping is Super Saturday. That's the day before Christmas. People are going to see another wave of deals coming through.
It's the Saturday before Christmas. It's December 21st. Analysts said the busiest hour of Cyber Monday was 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern time. It sounds like people kind of forgot it was Cyber Monday and at the very last second hopped online. During that hour, an estimated $11 million was being spent every minute
at the buzzer purchases.
Online.
Yeah.
Well, you know, they get you because you think that you have to get all those deals on Black Friday and you get all these emails saying this is your final warning, those sales are about to end. Just kidding.
We've got new
Cyber
ones.
Monday reels you back in.
I think the ticking clock, too, the 11 p.m., because it's like, you got to do it. Our deal's going to expire at midnight, and everyone sees the clock winding down and panics and buys
everything.
Yeah, and who could blame them? Certainly not I. Well, we're hearing about how one teenager's act of bravery saved the life of an elderly neighbor.
18-year-old Demaris Shaw says he was visiting his grandmother in Spanish Fort, Alabama, when he saw flames shooting from her neighbor's home.
I had to bust open the screen door to get through the white door. So by the time I got there, I was still calling his name because I guess he heard the glass break. And he was calling. I was like, Mr. Billy. And he heard me, so that's when I kicked the door down.
Well, that 83-year-old man was sleeping at the time. Respectful young teen, quick to action. Still calls him Mr. Billy, too. I like that.
Right.
That's a good
really
kid.
Sweet. Absolutely. All right, well, coming up, the character taking the internet by storm, why Baby Yoda is just a gift that keeps on giving.
Plus, the Latin artist who is raking in more money than Keith Urban, more money than J-Lo. We're catching up with Romeo Santos coming up next.
Welcome back. We turn now to the fallout after a bombshell interview with Prince Andrew's accuser.
Virginia Roberts Giuffre insists Jeffrey Epstein directed her to have sex with Andrew when she was 17. And this morning, she's slamming the prince for denying the accusations, claiming he's making ridiculous excuses.
In her first TV interview with British media, Virginia Roberts Giuffre is taking on Prince Andrew.
There's only one of us telling the truth, and I know that's me.
Giuffre says in court filings that she was directed by Jeffrey Epstein to have sex with the prince when she was 17. Prince Andrew denied that claim during his controversial recent interview when he discussed his friendship with Epstein, a convicted sex offender who investigators say killed himself while awaiting trial for sex trafficking.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay.
In an interview with the BBC recorded before Prince Andrew's interview, Giuffre describes dancing with the prince the night of this now infamous photo.
He is the most hideous dancer I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was horrible, and this guy was sweating all over me.
That claim flatly denied by the prince.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat or I didn't sweat at the time.
Giuffre is also blasting critics who claim the photo of them together was faked.
I think the world is getting sick of these ridiculous excuses. It's a real photo. I've given it to the FBI for their investigation, and it's an authentic photo. There's a date on the back of it from when it was printed.
This morning, Buckingham Palace has not commented on Giuffre's interview, as many say the prince should remain out of the spotlight.
There's talk that Prince Andrew's keen to do another interview in order to respond to the claims that Miss Giuffre makes. That would be a very bad decision given how the last interview went, and I think everyone is in agreement that should he give any more interviews, that needs to be to law enforcement authorities.
Buckingham Palace says the prince regrets his association with Jeffrey Epstein and denies any form of sexual contact or relationship with Giuffre. The prince could face subpoenas if he returns to the U.S.
Joining us now for more on this is foreign correspondent Julia McFarlane across the pond in the London bureau. Julia, good morning. How are people there in England reacting to this interview?
Right, so Prince Andrew's troubles really aren't going away. Remember, it was just over 2 weeks ago that he gave that first interview to Emily Maitlis of BBC Newsnight, and the widespread fallout from that interview is kind of as a result to a lot of the claims he made not really seem to holding a lot of water, and accusations that he was not remorseful of his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, and he had not any word for the women, and many of them girls at the time, who were victims of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes at the time. And I have to say, I watched the documentary last night, and the way they edited it was very, very jarring, the way they went into incredibly detailed testimony, not just from Virginia Roberts-Giuffre, but also two other women who are bringing cases against Jeffrey Epstein. 5 women in total have asked for Prince Andrew to testify, and another revelation that there are subpoenas drawn up for when Prince Andrew, if he ever goes to the US. But I have to say, it was very jarring to see testimony from these women spliced in with Prince Andrew's interview with Newsnight. Remember some of the things he said in that interview, saying that he did not regret his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein because he provided useful contacts to him, and not a single word of remorse for those girls. Now, as you say, Buckingham Palace has since released a statement after that interview saying that he unequivocally regretted his entire friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we learned some new things in the film last night. We learned some new details from Virginia Roberts. She reiterated claims that she has made also against Ghislaine Maxwell, Prince Andrew's friend, the British socialite who dated Jeffrey Epstein. Lots of women are accusing her of being a kind of madam and enabling a lot of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. She is under investigation in the US, but she maintains that she was not involved in any of his crimes, and she did not witness any wrongdoing against any of those girls, and that the claims against Prince Andrew are false. But some really interesting new details coming to light on that documentary, which are just going to provide more of a headache for the palace. And the presence of these subpoenas are also incredibly problematic. We now find ourselves in a situation where the Queen's second son is effectively unable to travel to the US in case he doesn't want, because he won't want to give a forced deposition, although he has said that he is happy to comply with any law enforcement agencies.
This thing just keeps spooling and spooling and spooling,
really
Julia.
does.
Yeah, so much every single turn. You know, while we got you, Julia, we know that you're very plugged in a global sense. A common thing we're talking about in the United States, I would imagine you're also talking about in England, is expanding technology versus privacy and government overreach. And we want to talk about China's new requirement that new mobile phone users have to submit a facial scan. And China says it is to protect citizens' interests and rights in cyberspace and protect against fraud. But obviously, there's a lot of critics to this. What are some of the concerns, and what are people saying?
Right, so this is a new regulation that China has begun to enforce today, that all new mobile phone users, cell phone users, have to submit a facial scan. Now, the Chinese authorities say this is to prevent breaches of security, cyber fraud, all these kinds of things. But critics say that this is an increasing and creeping part of China's authoritarian surveillance system. Some really interesting details since I've been looking at this. A recent British report by the Metropolitan Police found that 80% of facial recognition suspects that they had flagged had actually turned out to be innocent. So a lot of people are saying that this technology, it's new, but it is largely untested, and there's not a huge amount of evidence to suggest that it helps to fight crime. But a lot of civil liberty campaign is raising a lot of issues with this. And of course, this is also happening at the same time that class action lawsuit against the app TikTok is going on in California. You guys know that huge, wildly successful app that's got more than 500 million users worldwide. There are claims that it sent information back to the Chinese. Its owner is a firm that is based in Beijing, and this lawsuit filed in California last week claims that TikTok, quote, clandestinely vacuumed up and transferred to servers in China vast quantities of private and personally identifiable user data.
Certainly not the first time China's been accused of stepping on civil liberties, definitely.
Absolutely.
All right, Julie McFarland, always a pleasure to see you. Have a good Tuesday over there. Thanks for making time for us. Let's check our notifications now. We're going to start with the new Star Wars celebrity, Baby Yoda.
The infant alien is a character in the Disney Plus series The Mandalorian. I tell you, Baby Yoda is taking social media by storm. According to Axios, he's getting nearly twice as many social media interactions as any of the 2020 Democratic presidential candidates are.
Now, there's still no word on who or what Baby Yoda is. The Mandalorian takes place years after Yoda's death. Theories range from it being the Jedi Master's offspring to another character of the same species.
Whatever he is, people are loving him.
It's a real cutie pie.
Super cute.
That's for sure.
Cutie pie.
No doubt about it.
A phrase we don't often hear.
No,
Trevor
have not
say.
deployed that on the news in quite a while. Next up, I want to show you why 7-year-old Chandler Moore says he is the luckiest boy ever. So he's going to get knocked off his surfboard here. But he didn't just lose his balance. He got knocked off by a shark. This happened off New Smyrna Beach in Florida. Chandler says he didn't realize why he fell off until him and his dad reviewed that video. And still, even now knowing that it was a shark that did this, Chandler says he's got no concerns. He's going to keep surfing.
Brave dude. That's the kind of thing that would keep me out of the water for the rest of my life.
That's a surfer spirit right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of sharks, check out this wild video of a woman floating with a sea of sharks in the Maldives. These are nurse sharks. They tend to be harmless to humans. She was on vacation, and the resort where she was staying offers snorkeling with sharks as a tour. She took it to the next level, though.
Yeah.
On this day, apparently just a whole lot of sharks in the shallow ocean. She definitely got her money's worth.
Yeah, no interest in the snorkeling, it would appear from her.
Nope,
just wants to get a good float on.
I mean, that I can relate to.
wonder
The
if she's
snorkeling is
even
a lot of
aware.
work. Right. She's looking the wrong way.
Just like relaxing, and then later they were like, you know, there's a bunch of sharks underneath it.
She started snorkeling, didn't see any, and said,
like,
forget this. I'm
waste
just
of
going to
money.
chill. Right.
I'm going to take a nap.
Well, Black Friday and Cyber Monday are now over, and while we're adding up what we spent this week, some might be calling their accountants or maybe paying them a visit, like this bald eagle near Norfolk, Virginia.
Some say, yeah, they wanted instant service. The bird flew right into this window. This is at an H&R Block office. And then it perched right under the walk-ins welcome sign, perhaps waiting for a tax advisor.
The office was closed. After a while, you see it took off, so...
Doesn't appear to be hurt.
Seems like it's doing all right.
Not sure if it was able to secure a quality tax return or not, but retained the ability to fly.
The guy who took the video said he thought that it was a stuffed animal.
Right.
Why would you think that's a real thing?
Yeah, why would there be a bald eagle inside the H&R Block? Well, you may not be familiar with a Latin artist who is heating up the charts and selling out stadiums, but you soon will be.
His name is Romeo Santos. He was born in the Bronx, and now he is a global brand. ABC's Stephanie Ramos shows us how his career exploded.
60,000 fans packed into one stadium. Here for one of the biggest names in music, Romeo Santos. He may not be on your playlist, but Santos is an American pop icon who's redefined the music industry by sticking to his roots and only singing in Spanish.
Did you ever think you wanted to sing in English, or you knew that, hey, I'm going to sing in Spanish?
Yeah, I knew from day one that, you know, bachata was my thing and that I was going to definitely mainly sing in Spanish.
The 38-year-old, one of the highest paid musicians of 2018, making more money than Keith Urban and fellow Latinx musician J-Lo. Each concert a star-studded event. Tonight, bringing one of his biggest fans on stage, Cardi B.
So for you to fill out a stadium, that's a big deal. Like if I was to fill out a stadium, maybe one day I will, that will be the day that I cry. That'll be the day that I'll be like, yeah.
At a time when artists are increasingly collaborating across cultures, like Bad Bunny and Drake's Mia, and DJ Snake's and Osuna's Taki Taki. He's worked with stars like Usher years before it was trendy, and instead brings English language artists into his genre.
When you're talking about Romeo Santos, we're talking about probably one of the 10 best singers working in all American pop right now.
Ultimately, revolutionizing and modernizing the genre of bachata by turning to his heritage. It's a style of music originating from the Dominican Republic. Most of the lyrics deeply romantic and nostalgic.
The Dominican community in New York really embraced bachata, always. And what happened in the early 2000s is some young people decided they wanted to update the music.
Santos, together with his cousin and friends, formed a band called Aventura and brought a fresh, urban appeal to the genre. After a decade of worldwide success, Santos launched a solo career, but this time in an era where Latin music is more popular than EDM or country music, right here in the U.S.
When we think of crossover, we're thinking of a 90s concept. We're thinking of a 2000s concept. In 2019, moving into the 2020s with the seamlessness of social media, crossing over is an outdated concept.
According to Spotify, their Viva Latino playlist is growing 5 times faster than any other playlist in their top 1,000. He's sold out Madison Square Garden and Yankee Stadium twice, joining the ranks of Madonna and Sir Paul McCartney. And now, MetLife Stadium, one of the largest stadiums in the country.
I think I'm very lucky to have so many fans that love me and support me, and especially, you know, after so many years. I've been doing this for nearly 23 years.
And for those of you wondering whether you're late to the Romeo Santos fan club.
Oh, you got to get put on Romeo Santos. I'm just saying.
That works.
I'm to give you bloopers.
For Nightline, I'm Stephanie Ramos.
The man has some hits.
Apparently, and a few fans.
Right, yeah, well, I feel like I'm hearing that more and more just when you overhear the radio of the Spanish language being used.
Right, that's true.
And it's giant. The fact that it's bigger than country, Latin music is bigger than country music in the United States.
Right.
I would have never guessed that.
And there are all of these collaborations, and it seems he's behind a lot of, you know, these songs that we've probably heard, and some of us maybe didn't make the connection that that's who this is.
Yes.
So interesting to learn a little bit more about him.
Man is a trailblazer. Kudos to our favorite, Stephanie Ramos, on that report. Coming up, we're going to tell you what to watch out for on this Tuesday.
Plus, why today may be the best day to book that flight or hotel for that trip you've been planning. After this.
Here's what to watch out for today. President Trump is in London for the NATO summit, where he's scheduled to meet with French President Emmanuel Macron and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau before having tea with Prince Charles and Duchess Camilla. And then it's off to a reception for NATO leaders hosted by the Queen at Buckingham Palace, and another reception at Downing Street hosted by Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
Meanwhile, in the impeachment probe, House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff says his panel's report will be released today. Schiff did not let on to when an impeachment vote might take place, but said, quote, "This is a threat to the integrity of the upcoming election, and we don't feel that it should wait."
Democrats running for president are on the campaign trail, while former Vice President Joe Biden makes his big push in Iowa on his No Malarkey bus tour. Mayor Pete Buttigieg heads down south to roundtables in South Carolina and Montgomery, Alabama. Former Mayor Mike Bloomberg also in the South, participating in a criminal justice reform roundtable in Jackson, Mississippi. And Senator Amy Klobuchar, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, and Andrew Yang attend events in New Hampshire.
Cyber Monday is over, which means it's Giving Tuesday. The day aims to put the focus back on charities after a long weekend of shopping for bargains. Today, everyone's encouraged to give in any way possible to charitable organizations. People can donate money, time, or simply share information about a charity. The holiday was started in 2012.
And it's also Travel Tuesday. Today's expected to be the biggest volume day for airfare and hotel discounts in the post-Thanksgiving period. Delta and Emirates are among the companies offering deals. Experts say if you're shopping today, you should set a budget, you should set up price alerts, and you should search flight deal blogs and sites.
Plus, don't forget to tune into The Debrief for an update on all of our top stories, and the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics.
And we also want to get to our question of the day. It is Giving Tuesday. We're going to focus on that more than Travel Tuesday. We want to know, what are some charities that are close to your heart that you want people to donate to? Maybe this is your opportunity to spread the word. We'd love to hear if you have anything specific. Marcy, anything dear to your heart?
You know, there's not one that comes up because I feel like I'm one of those people who could use this information.
Yeah.
You're looking for something good to do, especially after a few days of
Sure.
spending way too much money
Yes.
on gifts and maybe a little bit on myself. And sometimes you just don't know like where's a good direction to go with the charitable donations.
Yeah,
so.
and there's a lot of people that are in need in a lot of different places, and I'm
Right.
sure that people can find them in their own community. One that I would recommend if you are looking for something specific it's a site called Donors Choose, which is people who are in need of donations can list on the site, and you can filter it by state and your hometown. So like I'm from Toledo, Ohio. I can go to Toledo and like teachers will say, I would like to do this science project, but I don't have funds for it. So I need $500, and you can donate specifically to that thing. So I've done that before with like and it feels like not all charity is good charity. But if I give $100 to the Red Cross, which is great, but you don't really see the immediate impact, which is not to diminish donating to the Red Cross.
There is an impact, right, but you're not seeing, whereas in a classroom.
You can say, like, this is a very specific cause that only needs this amount of money, and I can see that direct impact and, like, make a classroom full of kids very happy.
That's awesome.
So that's called Donors Choose, and I would recommend that on this Giving Tuesday. But I'm sure there's many more out there, and we'd love to hear from you. And that's why it is our question of the day. So tell us in the comments or tweet us at ABC News Live.
And you've now done your good deed.
How about that?
By sharing this information.
I'm taking Giving Tuesday off now. I've done my part.
All right, well, if you are booking a flight to College Station, Texas, because we are focusing on the travel deals today as well, you might want to stop and see the new statue of the George H.W. Bush Library.
So it honors Sully, the dog that served as the president's former service animal in the last year of the former president's life. The life-size bronze statue portrays that yellow Labrador retriever holding his leash in his mouth.
The sculptor says she will just always remember that picture of the lab in mourning, lying quietly below the coffin of the man he served.
That powerful image.
Yeah, it
Everybody
is.
was sharing it after that.
Nice to see that the dog will be honored in such a special way.
Earned.
Yes,
for sure.
Absolutely.
That does it for us. We hope everybody has a great Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. There is plenty of news. We'll have you covered all day on ABC News, ABC News Live, and then we'll see you back here tomorrow.
All right, have a good one, everyone.